Your touch upon that patient was not permitted. The supervisor's voice cut through the air, sharp and unyielding, as the nurse's hand continued to quiver from the exertion of CPR. He wasn't even part of your shift, yet she was the sole one who took action. The following morning, a distinguished officer stepped into the ICU, cradling a neatly folded American flag, accompanied by a question that hushed the entire hospital into a profound stillness. Have you ever witnessed a soul facing consequences for choosing the path of righteousness? Kindly respond with a 1 if you possess it. Welcome to Great Man, a place where elegance meets charm. Let us unveil the truth of what transpired. It commenced as a typical Tuesday morning at St. Mary's Hospital. Evelyn Reynolds, a 30-year-old nurse with 6 years of experience, was celebrated for her careful attention to protocol, yet her steadfast conviction that patients always took precedence over paperwork shone through in all she did. Evelyn observed the delicate quiver in his hands as the orderlies gracefully brought in the new transfer patient. Walter Garrison, at the age of 78, donned a well-worn veteran's cap, a relic of times gone by. A slender tube of oxygen gracefully traced beneath his nose. His weathered visage bore the deep lines of a life richly experienced. The medical chart revealed that he had been transferred for specialized cardiac care following a series of troubling episodes. As Evelyn glided past, clipboard in hand, meticulously reviewing another patient's medication schedule, she caught the sound. The haunting sound of a heart monitor signaling its final breath. She glanced over to find Walter's form stiffening with tension. The orderlies stood still, caught in a moment of hesitation. In that fleeting moment, the hallway stood empty of any doctors. With a graceful motion, Evelyn let her clipboard slip from her grasp. The gentle clatter of plastic against linoleum resonated softly through the unexpectedly hushed corridor. With a graceful urgency, she hurried to Walter's side, gently lowering the stretcher guardrail. "Code Blue," she proclaimed, her voice unwavering, even as adrenaline coursed through her veins. "Procure a crash cart." Her delicate hands gracefully settled upon Walter's chest. Fingers entwined, arms extended, shoulders gracefully aligned. With a grace that belied the urgency of the moment, she initiated the compressions, each movement executed with meticulous care. 1, 2, 3, 4. She counted softly, her heart echoing a rhythm that could sustain this enigmatic stranger's life. Glistening droplets formed on her forehead as she approached the 90-second mark. Her arms ached with a fervent intensity. There remains an absence of reply. "Come, my dear," she whispered softly. "Engage in the dance of passion." After what seemed like an eternity, Walter's chest suddenly rose and fell, as if stirred by an unseen force. A faint yet unmistakable pulse reemerged. Evelyn took a step back, her scrubs glistening with the sheen of perspiration, her arms quivering from the effort expended. In that moment, Supervisor Carol Walters emerged, her expression twisted with a tempest of bureaucratic ire. She remained silent about the patient's condition, offering no recognition of the life that had just been saved. "Who granted you the authority to intervene?" she inquired, her voice slicing through the charged air with an undeniable intensity. "This patient does not belong to your ward. You have strayed from the established protocol." Evelyn remained momentarily entranced, her breath caught in her throat, as Carol gracefully took possession of her ID badge. "Your suspension is in effect while we conduct a review. Kindly empty your locker, if you would be so gracious." Evelyn cast her gaze upon Walter once more, his breaths now steady as the emergency response team arrived at last. She offered a gentle nod, then glided away, her footsteps resonating softly in the now hushed hallway. Such tales come to life through the presence of individuals like you. Remain by our side and assist in sharing what is just and true. Evelyn found herself in solitude within the staff break room, her gaze fixed upon the delicate surface of the untouched coffee, mirroring her own contemplative reflection. The suspension notice rested delicately beside her. With urgency in the air, the hospital administration has summoned an emergency review meeting to convene within the hour. What is the fee? Unpermitted medical actions beyond her designated duties. Beyond the transparent barriers, she caught sight of her colleagues exchanging tender glances, though many chose to look away. The intricate dance of hospital politics. No one wished to follow suit. Her phone vibrated gently, A message from Nurse Linda illuminating the screen. You acted wisely, yet they are apprehensive about potential repercussions. Do not anticipate assistance from those in management. Evelyn gracefully tucked her phone away into her pocket. 6 years of impeccable performance evaluations. A multitude of lives intertwined. And now her career teetered on the edge, all because she had chosen not to witness a man's final moments. As Evelyn stepped into the meeting room, a chill seemed to envelop her, an unwelcome contrast to the warmth of her presence. 5 faces gazed upward. The esteemed director of nursing, the distinguished hospital administrator, the wise legal counsel, the attentive HR representative, and, naturally, the esteemed Supervisor Walters. Without companions, Ms. Reynolds, the administrator began, gracefully shuffling papers with an air of significance. You comprehend the reason for our presence here. Your actions this morning have regrettably strayed from the established protocols of the hospital. I performed CPR on a patient in cardiac arrest, Evelyn replied, her voice soft yet resolute. No physicians were in attendance. The transport staff lacked training in advanced life support. It was not your choice to decide, Walters gently interjected. He was not the patient designated for your care. There exists a hierarchy of authority. Had I waited for the proper authorization, Evelyn interjected, her gaze meeting the supervisor's with unwavering confidence. Mr. Garrison would have met his untimely end by now. Is that the result you would have desired? Silence enveloped the room. From the periphery of her vision, Evelyn caught sight of a gentleman in a dark suit gracefully rising from his seat in the waiting area beyond. He had been listening with rapt attention. He strolled away with a certain urgency, the phone already pressed to his ear. This matter transcends mere preferences, the legal counsel articulated with measured grace. It concerns the essence of responsibility and the graceful adherence to established protocols. When staff venture beyond their designated roles, my purpose remains clear, saving lives, Evelyn expressed with conviction. That is the purpose for which I was crafted. That is the vow I made. The administrator let out a soft sigh. We shall gather once more after we have had the chance to reflect upon the security footage. Until that moment arrives, your suspension remains in effect. Unbeknownst to those gathered in the room, the man who had quietly stepped away to make a phone call was none other than retired Colonel Richard Garrison, the younger brother of Walter, and he had absorbed every word spoken. In a serene nook of the hospital lobby, Richard spoke with fervor into his phone. My dear General, it is Garrison speaking. May I kindly request a favor from you? His voice descended into a softer whisper. One is worthy of both shelter and acknowledgement. How soon might you arrive? In the quiet of her locker room, Evelyn delicately gathered her cherished belongings, each item a whisper of memories. A beautifully framed photo of her graduation, a charming coffee mug bestowed by a grateful patient's family, delicate tokens of a career to which she had devoted her very soul. She pondered the countless lives that might slip away, ensnared by the rigid chains of protocol and bureaucracy. How many fleeting choices would be examined by those who have never faced such moments? She held no regrets for her actions. She would embrace the moment once more, even if it meant sacrificing all she held dear. At precisely 11:58 a.m., the unmistakable sound of polished dress shoes gliding over linoleum captured the attention of all within the hospital's administrative wing. A tall figure, adorned in a full military dress uniform, glided purposefully through the corridors. Colonel Thomas Harris, a distinguished combat veteran and esteemed military liaison officer, gracefully cradled a wooden box beneath one arm while holding an official envelope adorned with government seals in his hand. The metals adorning his chest shimmered under the soft glow of the fluorescent light, each one a testament to moments of bravery that only a select few could truly understand. I must speak with your hospital director, he informed the startled receptionist, his voice steady yet insistent. In an instant, the receptionist's fingers danced nervously over the phone, her eyes widening at the striking presence that stood before her. My dear sir, might I inquire as to the nature of this matter? It pertains to a matter of honor, the colonel responded, standing with impeccable posture, his cap held delicately under his arm, alongside a nurse named Evelyn Reynolds. In mere moments, Evelyn felt herself beckoned once more to the familiar meeting room. This time, however, the ambience had transformed profoundly. The hospital director graced them with her presence. Her typically assured demeanor softened, while at the head of the table sat Colonel Harris, his expression a mystery cloaked in years of military discipline, his weathered visage betraying only the weight of his solemn duty. "I understand," the colonel began, his voice imbued with a quiet authority that required no loudness to capture attention, "that Nurse Reynolds has been suspended for offering life-saving care to Walter Garrison." The director shifted gracefully in her leather chair, her manicured fingers delicately adjusting papers that required no rearrangement. "Colonel, with the utmost respect, I must convey that this is a matter pertaining solely to the internal affairs of the hospital. Walter Garrison," the colonel continued, seemingly undeterred by her interruption, each word flowing with purpose and grace, "is not merely an ordinary patient." With a gentle touch, he lifted the lid of the wooden box, unveiling a purple heart metal cradled in the embrace of rich blue velvet. The metal shimmered softly beneath the conference room lights, its rich purple and gold hues creating a striking contrast against the sterile whites and blues of the hospital surroundings. Staff Sergeant Walter Garrison graced the battlefields of Vietnam with his presence for 3 courageous tours. In the midst of peril, he bravely bore 4 wounded souls through the relentless fire of the enemy, a testament to his unwavering courage after their helicopter met a tragic fate. With shrapnel embedded in his leg and burns tracing across his back, he ventured back to the wreckage thrice, steadfastly refusing evacuation until each man was accounted for. Among those men, 2 have now embraced the noble calling of surgeons. One holds the esteemed position of a congressman. Silence enveloped the room. Even Supervisor Walters seemed to diminish in her chair, her earlier conviction dissipating like the delicate morning mist. Colonel Harris gracefully glided a USB drive across the table. "I have taken the opportunity to peruse your security footage. It is evident that Nurse Reynolds was the sole medical professional who responded with utmost grace and competence to a life-threatening situation. She adhered to every protocol for emergency intervention, precisely as was required of her." With a graceful motion, the director slid the drive into her laptop. The room held its breath, captivated by the unfolding events of the morning displayed on the screen. Evelyn's swift reaction, the exquisite execution of her CPR technique, the invaluable moments that slipped by before assistance arrived. In the military, Colonel Harris continued, there exists a saying, initiative in the absence of orders. It signifies embracing the moment to act decisively when hesitation is not an option. It is the pursuit of our utmost dedication. He gazed upon Evelyn. Your actions reflected the utmost excellence in medical care and a profound sense of humanity. One need not delve into Sergeant Garrison's military history to recognize the profound value of his life, deserving of every effort to preserve it. The hospital director delicately cleared her throat. In light of this additional context, I feel it is time for us to reflect upon our stance with a fresh perspective. The suspension of Ms. Reynolds is hereby lifted without delay. That is insufficient, Colonel Harris declared with conviction. This woman merits admiration, not regret. She embodies all that your hospital aspires to represent. The director inclined his head with a measured grace. You are absolutely correct, and we shall refine our emergency response protocols to guarantee that such a situation does not arise again. Supervisor Walter gazed at her delicately folded hands, unable to lift her gaze to meet anyone's eyes. At times, Colonel Harris remarked, standing gracefully, the most courageous act is not charging into battle. At times, it is about finding the courage to confront those who ought to be your allies. He gracefully extended his hand to Evelyn. With heartfelt gratitude, I extend my thanks on behalf of the armed forces and the Garrison family. As Evelyn clasped his hand, she perceived a subtle nuance she had not noticed previously. The colonel adorned his uniform with a medical service pin, a subtle emblem of honor and dedication. He had once belonged to their world. An apology is not necessary, Colonel Harris remarked to the hospital staff as he readied himself to depart. Your heart should be filled with gratitude for her. There are those who require no authority, only the innate desire to preserve life. Join us to ensure you never miss tales of those who bravely choose the path of righteousness. 3 days later, Evelyn found herself standing gracefully beside Walter Garrison's bed in the ICU. His eyes gently opened, gradually honing in on her enchanting visage. A gentle illumination graced his time-worn visage. "You are the one," he murmured, his voice a soft, trembling whisper. "My brother shared with me the tale of what transpired." Evelyn gently tended to his foreline. "Merely fulfilling my duties, Mr. Garrison." Walter's hand, marked by the passage of time, yet imbued with strength, gently sought hers. He spoke of rescuing men from flaming helicopters, of bearing his comrades through dense jungles when their legs could no longer carry them. "I never once imagined." His eyes shimmered with a captivating allure. "I never imagined that one day someone would come to my rescue." Evelyn clasped his hand with a tender touch. "Such is the way of things. We watch over one another with tender care." As the afternoon sun began to wane, Evelyn discovered Supervisor Walters poised gracefully by the nurse's station. The older woman's once rigid posture had gracefully softened, her gaze gently lowered. "Nurse Reynolds," she began, her voice imbued with an unusual softness. "I find myself compelled to extend a heartfelt apology, one that deserves to be shared openly." With a graceful motion, she indicated the staff assembling for the shift change. "May I, perchance?" Evelyn nodded, her heart fluttering with a mix of anticipation and uncertainty. With a gentle clearing of her throat, Walters captured the attention of the dozen nurses poised to begin their evening shift. "I wish to express something of great significance," she declared. "Just 3 days past, Nurse Reynolds made a choice that preserved a precious life. I chose to express my discontent through a form of retribution." Her voice trembled ever so gently. "I acknowledge my mistake, and I sincerely apologize." To Evelyn's delightful surprise, the head nurse continued. "Beginning today, we shall embrace a new protocol for emergency responses. The Evelyn Code states that any qualified nurse is empowered to initiate emergency procedures in the absence of an immediately available doctor." One by one, the nurses gracefully stood to their feet. The applause began with a gentle murmur, gradually swelling into a resounding wave that enveloped the entire room. Evelyn's cheeks warmed with a surge of unanticipated feeling. Dr. Morris, the esteemed chief of medicine at the hospital, graced the doorway with his presence. "Nurse Reynolds," he proclaimed, his voice rising above the waves of applause. "The director wishes to have a moment with you." Within the director's office, Evelyn was taken aback to discover both Colonel Harris and Richard Garrison in the company of the hospital's esteemed leadership. "The director shared with us that we have been reflecting on our emergency response protocols, and it has become clear that they fall short of what is needed. Excessively preoccupied with hierarchies, yet insufficiently attentive to the well-being of patients." With a graceful gesture, she presented Evelyn with a folder. "We would be delighted if you could take the lead in guiding a committee to refine them. With your profound experience and unwavering moral clarity, you are undoubtedly the ideal person to guide this transformation." As Evelyn departed the office, her reinstated ID badge gracefully secured to her scrubs, she took a moment to gaze through the ICU window. Walter reclined gracefully in bed, his brother Richard by his side, both men sharing a hearty laugh over a cherished memory. She pondered the delicate balance between rules and purpose, reflecting on how systems intended for protection can, at times, yield contrary effects, and the bravery required to discern one from the other. As Evelyn stepped into the ICU for her evening rounds, the familiar flurry of activity momentarily hushed. Yet this time, the gaze that fell upon her carried a fresh allure, not through scrutiny or judgment, but rather through a deep sense of respect. With a gentle nod, she gracefully shifted her attention to her patients. Ultimately, they were the reason for her presence in this moment. Certain things remained untouched by the passage of time. There exist individuals skilled in the art of saving lives, yet not all possess the bravery to take action when the world remains silent, offering no command. Evelyn took no time to linger. As a result, a life was saved, a policy was transformed, and a community discovered the essence of what truly holds significance. In a realm frequently ensnared by rules and regulations, one might easily lose sight of the very purpose for which these systems were originally designed. They are here to preserve life, not to hinder the rise of heroes. The hospital's new Evelyn Code Red protocol transcended mere rule changes. It was a matter of cherishing the human heartbeat that lies beneath each regulation. For decades, Walter Garrison held on to the belief that he was the savior of many. It was Evelyn Reynolds who revealed to him that courage dances in every direction. At times, the battlefield unfolds within the sterile embrace of a hospital corridor, and at other moments, the adversary is not one from distant lands. It is our own trepidation that keeps us from venturing beyond the confines of the familiar. Perhaps the most exquisite triumph wasn't the one Evelyn achieved over the hospital's intricate bureaucracy. It was a triumph she claimed for all those who would follow in her footsteps, those whose lives are now preserved because someone had the courage to redefine the boundaries of permission when existence teetered on the edge. At times, the most valiant deeds unfold not amidst the clamor of battle, but within the serene halls of a hospital. At times, the most courageous choices are not those that adhere strictly to the rules, but rather those that honor the very essence of why those rules were established. Have you ever observed a soul being chastised for choosing the path of righteousness? We invite you to share your tale below. Join us at Great Man, where noble deeds are celebrated and recounted with the reverence they truly deserve.